This is the Tech Phantom, and welcome to episode 23 of this walkthrough. And we start by taking a closer look at this statue, and it is the statue of a woman holding a baby. But the very interesting thing is that the baby appears to be holding a sword, but not just any kind of sword. It appears to be a sunlight straight sword. But this episode will not be about Solaire. This episode is going to be about the mighty, everlasting dragons and their lore within Dark Souls. And in this episode, we are going to pay a visit and we're going to take on every single dragon that is left in the game. Beginning with the Hellkite dragon, which is why it is that we came back to the Undead Parish on top of the bridge. And as you can see, the Hellkite dragon, who was a complete nightmare at the very beginning of the game, is not doing any damage even with his potent fire breath. And that is because we are so advanced into our build and we are so strong. So let's give him a little bit of great magic weapon and use our great scythe and see how much damage we can do. And as you can tell, we can do quite a bit of damage, and the Hellkite dragon goes down without much of a fight at all, which is a little bit disappointing, but obviously to be expected because we are taking him on this late in the game. Now, what's a little bit interesting about this dragon is that he does not drop dragon scale, whereas other dragons drop dragon scale, and I don't know if that was something that developers did on purpose, just in case they wanted to stop you from getting dragon scale or trying to hoard it, or if it's some kind of a signal that maybe this is not a dragon, but I think they just forgot. So let's take a look at dragon scale, and it's peeled from an ancient dragon, but it's also a very, very invaluable treasure that is sought by the transcendent apostles who want to be just like the dragons. And transcendent means that you want to go beyond your material body and you want to ascend into a new plane. So humans think that the dragons are godlike and they occupy a different plane, a different existence. And the dragon apostles, those who want to be just like the dragons or want to study the dragons, seek out the dragon scales in order to try to reach the plane of the everlasting dragons and to be able to live in perpetuity. Now we know that the dragons are not invincible because we kill them, but they don't die of natural reasons. If they're not injured or if they're not killed outright in the fight, they can just live forever. They can live in perpetuity. That's why they're called the everlasting dragons. Alright, so we took on the very first dragon, which was the Hellkite dragon, and we have set ourselves into a search for dragon scales and into a search for the dragon apostles. We are trying to seek, similar to the dragon apostles, we are trying to seek transcendency, and we are trying to find out why it is that humans want to belong to the dragon covenant and why it is that they want to be just like the dragons. Alright, so we are in the depths and we are going to summon Solaire for, again, some jolly cooperation. And we are going to take on another dragon, the boss of this level, that we have left for this episode. We could have taken him on earlier, but we decided not to. And you can actually summon Lautrec for this fight as well. And it turns out that Lautrec and Solaire are completely useless. And 99% of the time, if you summon them, they will be killed very, very quickly. Both Lautrec and Solaire. But by summoning them, you are going to be increasing the vitality, the life points of this gigantic beast who appears to be satiated because his belly is quite full. So he's been doing quite a bit of feeding, and he has a gigantic mouth that has about as many teeth as you can get into a mouth, including into the palate of the mouth. But anyway, the reason we summoned Solaire is because this is, again, we are doing quite a bit of damage at this point, and by allowing the boss to have a little bit more life, hopefully we're going to make this a little bit more of a challenging fight. And the first thing we want to do is we want to go after the dragon tail, because we have learned that when you poke and you chop dragon tails, good things happen. And we have just received the Dragon King Great Axe, and we have about a third of the boss's life down, of the boss's life bar down. We continue to chop at him, and Solaire is still around. Maybe we can finish the fight before he finishes, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen because I need to get to the dragon. Oh, that was my opportunity to hit him, and I should have hit him. And Solaire is gone, and the gaping dragon is also down. And this dragon actually gives you 25,000 souls, and he has a very, very large vitality bar. So early in the game, it's a long fight. It's not a particularly difficult fight if you stay away from him, but it is a long fight because it's going to take you a long time to do enough damage to him. So after taking on the gaping dragon, we are now ready to keep on challenging more dragons. And one interesting thing about Dark Souls is the fact that the dragons are around. And that is a little bit of a puzzler, because supposedly Lord Wynn, along with Seath and the other lords, obliterated and wiped out the dragons. But apparently this is a bit of a renaissance time for the dragons. They're coming back. And I think that this started happening when Lord Wynn linked the fire and left. He, at that point too, the Seath the Scaleless had gone crazy, and the other lords had left Anor Londo, and they had bigger things to worry about than the return of dragons. They were more worried about the advance of the dark, the advance of the abyss, and the dying of the bonfire, and the fact that Lord Wynn had decided to kill himself by trying to link the flames, and he was no longer around to provide leadership. So this bit of time started a window for the dragons to come back. And we have seen so far Seath, who was a dragon lord, so he's an example of what the dragons were like in their heyday. We have also seen undead dragons, so dragons just like humans can be undead, and I guess there are different kinds of dragons. And we have also caught a glimpse of some younger dragons in the Valley of Drakes, and they're called drakes. As a matter of fact, we know that there are dragons because they spew lightning. Now, in Dark Souls, apparently there is no difference between drakes, dragons, and there is no such thing as wyverns. But in the dragon fantasy world, sort of the larger world of fantasy, there are other games and other book series that make a pretty distinct difference or distinction between dragons and wyverns and drakes. But that is not the case in Dark Souls. In Dark Souls, we just have dragons. in Dragonkind. We have undead dragons. We have god dragons or lord dragons like Seath. And we have these creatures here, and these are drakes. And we know that they're smaller versions of dragons or younger dragons because they look very, very similar to the Hellkite dragon, except that they're not red, they're blue. And I think the reason that they're blue is because they spew lightning. The reason the Hellkite dragon is red is because he spews fire. So the elemental type of dragon is sort of signified by the color, or at least that's the speculation that I'm going to put forth. So these drakes are young dragons. So not only are there dragons, adult dragons floating around that maybe came out into view after Lord Wind left and they were not afraid to show their faces in the world anymore, but there is a revival going on because here we find a clutch of young dragons, teenage dragons, that are on their way to full adulthood, and they're going to be pretty formidable. Now, again, we know that these are dragons not only because they look like dragons, they have wings, they have sort of the tuft of feathers up in their spine. They have the small head, and they have the claws at the tips of the wings as well. But they drop dragon scale. Now, I'm not going to get it in this farming run for the drakes, but this is the best way to farm dragon scale, is to put on the covetous gold serpent ring and to kill the drakes and to obtain dragon scale. So that is one of the ways, the fastest way to help us along the path of the humans that worship the dragons and study dragons and want to follow in their footsteps and find their transcendental form. Alright, so the Valley of Drakes actually does hold an important item, and that is the red tearstone ring. And again, this is an item that was made by the Earl of Karim. And this is half of hyper mode. When you put on the red tearstone ring, you will do 50% more damage at when your life is at 20% or lower. And this can be multiplied by power within. And it will multiply. Power within gives you a 40% increase in damage when you have cast on yourself. But if you have both power within and if you have the red tearstone ring, the effect sort of switched on by having your life at less than 20%, you will have a multiplication of both effects, and you will be able to do an obscene amount of damage. And there are many people who have exploited the red tearstone ring and power within, or both, to switch on hyper mode and to take on some tough bosses in early parts of the game, or to help during speed runs. Alright, so the Valley of the Drakes are no more. So now we encounter an undead dragon, and he does not look very healthy. He is desiccated, and he is grayish and purplish, just like a human undead would be. Now, the easiest way to take on this undead dragon, because he can still do quite a bit of damage, is to get on top. There's a little pathway if you stay close to the rocks, and you can actually get on top, and you can use magical spells, or you can use bow and arrows, and you can kite them pretty safely. But you could see that this dragon still packs a wallop, and he has quite a large life bar because we have to hit him several times. And we see that he has a different kind of a breath attack. So this is the third type of breath attack that we've encountered. This is actually a poison breath attack. Actually, this is the fifth type of breath attack, because the Gaping Dragon's breath attack damaged your weapons, and Seed's breath attack was purely magical. He had a version of Dragon Breath that did damage to you, but could also curse you. So again, each kind of dragon has their own specific type of breath attack, and the breath attacks are related to the fact that all dragons are by nature magical. And when we received the Drake Sword way at the beginning of the game from the Hellkite dragon, when we chopped off his tail, we were told that the two-handed attack would release a magical attack, and that is true of all dragon weapons. The two-handed strong attack allows you to tap into a magical attack, normally some kind of an AoE attack, but that's because dragons are magical in their very nature. They're inherently magical, which is why they have high magic defense. And as a matter of fact, I think that dragons were the originators of magic. And I think that reinforcement for that is that Vinheim's School of Magic is called the Dragon School of Magic. So there is a juxtaposition between magic, which is related to the dragons and supposedly dark, and miracles, which are related to the gods, and that is more of a holy or a divine thing, or a divine type of attack. All right, we briefly saw the description for the Dragon King Great Axe, and it tells us that the Dragon King was a descendant of the original dragons, but he was deformed, and the reason that he was deformed is because of the Chaos Flame. So apparently even dragons are not immune from being tainted and being affected by the Chaos Flame. So over millennia, over all the time that the Chaos Flame has been around, it tainted the Gaping Dragon and eventually turned him into what it was that we fought in the depths. So our search for understanding of Dragonkind and our search for Dragon Scale continues and brings us to the Great Hollow. Now, this is a secrets and lore walkthrough, so let's get a little bit into the secret part of it. And I am going to be as thorough as I can, and I'm going to walk down slowly, and I'm going to show you how to pick up every single treasure that is on the way down the Great Hollow. And I'm not going to show the crystal lizards, but I showed that on a previous video, and you saw that we just missed one right there. But on the previous video I showed you guys how to access both caves, the small cave and the large cave, that house about I think it's 5 or 6 crystal lizards. And as you walk down the branches of this arch tree, you will also find other crystal lizards, and if you can't get to them right away, if you miss them, stand in the spot where they spawned, restart the game, and they will respawn again. And if you're lucky, you'll score a Titanite slab, because it appears that the drop rate in the latest patch of the game for Titanite slabs is a lot more frequent than it used to be. It's still a rare drop, but much more often I have been able to get Titanite slab from both the crystal lizards and from the dark raids in Yolanda Ruins. Alright, so one thing that I forgot to talk about with the Gaping Dragon and then we'll change our focus back to the Great Hollow, is that the Gaping Dragon has the Dragon King Great Axe. So the Gaping Dragon is a descendant of the King of the Dragons. So that must have been a magnificent beast indeed, and it's too bad that the descendant of the Great King was tainted by the Chaos Flame and turned into that gigantic mouth and belly that we fought in the the earlier part of the video. All right, we are wearing the Witch's Cloak, which has a good amount of curse resistance, so I'm not worried about being cursed here, because even if we stand in the curse fog for a little bit, we have plenty of time to get out and to kill the toads because of the curse resistance of the Witch's Cloak. And here is a little drop. You want to make sure that you roll on here and you'll land right in the middle and you can get a blue titanite chunk. So that one is a little bit of a tricky, but there are two treasures that are the trickiest ones to get in the Great Hollow, and I'm going to show you how to get one. And you saw me just there walk right through a curse fog, and I was just, not even worried about it. I walked through it with impunity. Okay, so we are going to come up onto a white titanite chunk that you need to drop onto from up here. And this is a very, very tricky drop, and as a matter of fact, I recommend doing a homeward bone after you've reached it. I'm going to try to play the hero here, and I'm going to try to drop onto a branch underneath, and I'm going to die. But this is the spot where you want to drop onto the branch, and there is the white titanite chunk. And again, guys, I recommend not attempting what I just did. It is possible to drop out of here, but it's very, very difficult, and you have to be right in the perfect spot. So what I recommend that you do after you've gotten this treasure, because it's a very tricky treasure, is to use a homeward bone, get back to the beginning of the level, and just start walking your way down again. Alright, so this is going to be our second attempt at descending the trunk of the arch tree in the Great Hollow. And we have picked up just about all of the treasures that are available. There is a red chunk right there that I did not pick up, that I forgot to pick up. And what you want to do is you want to drop onto this parapet right there, onto that ledge, and then walk up the plank. And you can get two chunks of each color here. You can get regular chunks, you can get blue chunks, red chunks, and white chunks. So the game does allow you to have chunks that can be used to upgrade the various types of weapons, or that can be used to be broken down into green shards or into other kinds of shards, if you ask Frampt to break them down for you after you've rung the second bell of awakening. All right, and then you can see that the curse frogs are just not much of a worry, thanks to the curse resistance of the Witch's Cloak, and also Hobble's gauntlets do have some curse resistance. And by the way, it is possible to come into this area at the very beginning of the game, and you can lessen your fears for being cursed by wearing the crimson set, which you can get up close to where you picked up the remedy spell. And the crimson set has a decent amount of curse defense, so you can come down here, you can wear the crimson set, and you can sort of worry a little bit less about getting cursed. But if you're careful, you're really not going to be cursed. This is probably the most risky part right here, because there are three frogs and they can gang up on you and they can throw up a sort of a supercharged cloud if all three clouds intersect. And if you don't have some curse resistance, you will be cursed and you will die. And obviously, being cursed is not a lot of fun. But if at the very beginning of the game, like I said, you can use the Crimson set, and that has quite a bit of resistance, and that will give you plenty of curse resistance to walk through the fog, the curse fog, the curse attack of these frogs. All right. Now, the other thing that we didn't see in this video is that this was a secret area, and we had to go through a hidden door. I'm sorry, a hidden wall in order to get through it. And at the very beginning, probably in the first video that I made, I showed you guys how to get through that wall, or perhaps it was in the video that where I showed you how to farm the crystal lizards in the cave. But anyway, at that point, we were able to break through a branch, and we were able to get through this area which is hidden. And this is the other second tricky chunk. What you need to do is you need to face the branch like I just did, and you need to jump out, and then you need to roll onto the top of that mushroom, and that will allow you to get that chunk. And we are getting close to the bottom of the level because we are seeing mushrooms that luckily lead us down. We're also seeing mushroom people. We're seeing mushroom kids, and we're seeing mushroom parents. And unlike Elizabeth, back from way back in Elysial, these mushrooms don't talk. They sort of are hostile. At least the parents are. And they're mobile. If you remember, Elizabeth could talk, but she was rooted to her spot. She couldn't walk. All right, and finally we come down to the Ash Lake, and this is the most serene and one of the most beautiful parts of the game. And the serenity is only broken by yet another type of a dragon that we encounter, and that is a water dragon, and that is a Hydra. But we have finally made it down to beautiful Ash Lake by descending the arch tree in the Great Hollow. So this is Ash Lake, and in the back we could see that there are many arch trees still left, and that they are gigantic. And this is an area that is representative of what the world was like before the war between the dragons and the lords, and also before the Chaos Flame perverted and tainted everything. I don't think that the Chaos Flame has come here and has tainted this area yet. It is still pristine, and it is still like it was back at the very beginning of the world. So there are some tough enemies here though. We find a Hydra, and this is a stronger version of the Hydra that we fought in Darkroot Basin. And this Hydra has a couple of different tricks up its sleeve. It is a dragon. It is a water dragon, but it can actually come out of the water and it can fly. And if you were to try to run away from it, it would jump and or fly all the way to the other side of the lake, and it will continue to chase you. And as a different kind of a dragon, it does have a different kind of a dragon breath attack, and that is a water projectile attack. So again, every single species of dragon has its own shape, maybe its own color, but certainly it has its own breath attack, and this one happens to have a water breath attack. So just like the Hydra in Darkroot Basin, we need to cut enough heads. We need to cut all of the heads, or we need to do enough damage to finally terminate and kill the Hydra. And I'm having a little bit of trouble. I haven't fought this Hydra in a long, long time, so I'm missing with my spots, and not having a ranged attack again makes things last a little bit longer than they should. And maybe I should try swinging up. But this fight is definitely taken longer than it should. Even with the range of the Great Scythe, because I'm missing. But luckily I was able to strike at a couple of heads there. And I'm just not finding the range. So I apologize for that, guys. This is a little bit of a tedious boss fight, but I guess it does give you a closer look at the majestic water dragon, the Hydra. And finally the Hydra is down, and as you could tell, I didn't have to cut all of the heads. I only had to do enough damage. So if you do enough damage before cutting all of the heads, the Hydra will die. Or if you don't do enough damage with your weapon, you're going to have to cut every single one of the heads. Alright, so there is actually a cache of dragon scale in this area, and the Hydra is a dragon because the Hydra drops dragon scale. So it is just a different type of a dragon that we've encountered before. It's not a land-based or air-based creature. It is a water-based creature, although like I said earlier, it can jump and fly through the air and go from one side of the lake to the other if you try to run away. So we are picking up all of the dragon scale. So this is probably a very popular area with those that worship dragons and that wish to achieve the transcendental status the dragons have achieved, and to somehow inhabit the same plane that the dragons inhabit, or at least that's what they believe. And here we find some man-eater clamshells, and these have not been crystallized by Seath, so we could see what their normal color looks like. They're sort of white, but they also have sort of some bright colors. They have some purple and some bright yellow or mustard around their legs. But they're pretty tough, and they hold the same items that the man-eater clamshells in the Duke's archives held. They can drop Twinkling Titanite, and they can drop Purge Stones as well. And the Twinkling Titanite, again, is related to the clam-eater man shells being magical. So they're somehow related to the dragons, because we only find them close to the dragons. We only find them here, and we only find them close to Seath, who, in order to make them better guardians for him, actually turned them into crystallized versions. But there is a tie between the man-eater clams and the dragons, because the man-eater clams appear to be magical in nature somehow, because they drop Twinkling Titanite, and Twinkling Titanite is the reinforcement material that you need for magical equipment or unique equipment. Alright, so we have dropped onto the inside of this arch tree, and we find the miracle Great Barrier Reef. And this is the second time that we have seen creatures that have made a home out of the base of an arch tree. So arch trees are so large that the mushroom creatures, the mushroom parents and the mushroom child or children, inhabit the inside of the arch trees and make them their home. And obviously there is no animosity between the toads and between the mushroom people, because they peacefully coexist. We found them on the arch trees as we were descending down the Great Hollow, and we found a toad and we found some mushroom creatures inside of their arch tree. Alright, and we are getting closer to what appears to be a super, super gigantic arch tree. Or maybe it just looks bigger because we're getting close to it. And the way is guarded by another man-eater clamshell. And we continue on the sandy beach. And you need to be careful. Don't stray off too much because you'll fall into the lake. And the lake has a very precipitous drop. And as soon as you hit the edge, it's all over for you and you will die. And it takes a long time to get to this area. So you want to be extremely careful. Alright, so we come inside of this gigantic arch tree. And we see the roots along the inside, and we come closer to a nest of a giant, majestic winged creature. And it appears that it's made out of rock or made out of some hard material. And as we get closer to it, this majestic dragon salutes us by opening up its wings. And this is my favorite sort of mini cutscene in the game. And let's take a closer look at this dragon. And he is ugly. He's got a lot of feathers. He's got a super tiny head. He also has an asymmetrical set of horns. You can see that his left horn sticks out to the left, but his right horn is kind of curled up. So I think that gives this guy a little bit of variety, and it makes him stand out, makes him a little bit unique. And he can actually drop the dragon greatsword when you chop his tail, and he willingly gives us his dragon weapon. He doesn't really care that we cut his tail, probably because the tail is going to grow back since he is a perpetual beast. And the dragon greatsword tells us that this is the stone dragon and that he is a descendant of the everlasting dragon. So the gaping dragon was also a descendant of the everlasting dragons, but the gaping dragon was tainted by the chaos flame, whereas the stone dragon is not tainted, and we could see what a dragon in its heyday looks like, and it is indeed a sight to behold. It's just gigantic, and what's kind of sad is that this is a serene and peaceful beast that doesn't want to hurt us and offers us a covenant with him. When you join the Path of the Dragon Covenant, you are given the dragon headstone and the dragon eye. The dragon eye will allow you to fight others in the same covenant for dragon scales, and you need dragon scales in order to offer them to the stone dragon and to advance your status or your rank in that covenant. The other thing you can do is to farm the Valley of the Drakes for dragon scale. So thankfully, because of our weapon and the amount of damage that we can do, it doesn't take very long to farm 30 dragon scale. It takes about an hour or so with the covetous gold silver serpent ring. And that's not a bad investment of time in order to join the coolest covenant in Dark Souls, at least in my opinion, and that's the Path of the Dragon. And we are going to get a special item by offering 30 dragon scales to the stone dragon. So with 30 dragon scale, there's only one thing to do, and that is to offer it to the leader of our covenant, the stone dragon. And he's sitting here in his nest, accepting our offers, probably regrowing that tail that we cut. And by the way, it's possible to make it all the way down here and cut his tail and get the dragon a greatsword with the base level character. It takes a little bit of luck, but it is possible to do it. Alright, so I've edited some of the offerings out, but after 30 dragon scale, he gives us the dragon torso stone. And if you remember, this one pairs with the dragon headstone. And we haven't had a chance to see what either of these Path of the Dragon Covenant rewards do. So let's take a look at it. And you need to unequip all of your armor, head, body, arms, and legs. So you need to be completely naked. And once you have removed your armor, then you can use the dragon headstone and the dragon torso stone. The dragon headstone allows you to gain the head of a dragon and to emit dragon breath. And the dragon torso stone allows you to gain the torso of a dragon and to roar like a dragon. So both of these items combined will allow you to transcend your body and to start becoming a dragon. So you will no longer have a human body, you will have a dragon body. And this is part of what the dragon apostles were reaching. They wanted to go beyond their body. They wanted to transcend their human body, and they wanted to achieve Dragonkind, I guess. So we've put on the dragon headstone, and the dragon headstone doesn't change our attacks, but it does give us the ability to emit a lightning attack that drains our stamina. And when we use the dragon torso stone, the transformation is complete, and our attacks with our right hand are changed to more like swipes or claw attacks. So this is what the Dragon Path wanted. They wanted to change into dragon, and you could see from the close-up that we are a baby version of the stone dragon. So let's have some fun with dragon form. When you are in dragon form, your unarmed attacks are going to be very, very strong. And I am going to buff them a little bit more by using the Hornet Ring. So we are in a Darkroot Garden, and we are going to take on these 4 enemies, which at one point were kind of tough. And I'm going to do a Dragon Roar, which is going to increase the amount of damage I did. And you could see I did 1,048 damage with a backstab by using my Dragon Hand. The buff, the Dragon Roar, stuns your enemies and allows you to do more damage. But you don't do damage for very long. It only lasts 5 or 6 seconds, so you need to time it. Otherwise, you could walk around the game and you could pretty much one-hand just about any enemy in the game if you could stun them. So I'm trying to score a parry to see how much damage we can do. But I'm going to try to do it while I am buff with the Dragon Roar, just to see how much damage we can do. Alright, so there's the parry and there's the riposte, and this is the coolest riposte animation in the game. The last crushing of the throat is just so very cool, and you saw that we did something like 1,200 damage with that critical attack. So Dragon Form buffs your unarmed attack, but what about your armed attack? Let's see the effects of that. And just to make things interesting, I am also going to equip the Red Tearstone Ring and the Hornet Ring. And I also cast Power Within. So I'm going to have 4 buffs going on at the same time. I'm going to have Power Within, I'm going to have the Red Tearstone Ring, the Hornet Ring, and I'm also going to equip, I'm going to do a Roar, a Dragon Roar, to increase my power. And what's cool about the Dragon Roar is that if you have Power Within cast, you will lose the red hue from Dragon Within while the Dragon Roar is active. So you could see exactly how long the Dragon buff is active for. It's not active for very, very long. Alright, so here's the final attack, and you can see that I've almost doubled the amount of damage that I can do by using the combination of the Red Tearstone Ring, Power Within, the Hornet Ring, and Dragon Form. Alright, so we're coming up to the end of the video, guys, and I'm going to do a little bit of an episode recap while we look at the last kind of dragons in Dark Souls. And I'm also going to show you the treasure that I forgot to pick up when I fought the centipede demon. Since I was going to be down here, I thought I'd show it to you guys. And I am wearing the orange charred ring so that I'll be able to walk on lava. So, what have we learned in this episode? Or at least, what have I speculated about in this episode? Well, I think that the dragons are alive and flourishing. And they're making a great comeback. And the dragons were originally hidden in Ash Lake. And Ash Lake remained hidden because you need to access it through a secret portal through an arch tree. So it became sealed from the outside, and it became untouched by the war between the dragons and the lords. And also it became free of the taint of the Chaos Flame. So the dragons there, or at least the one dragon there that was left remaining, the stone dragon, was not tainted, was not deformed like other descendants of the dragons, and we were able to see him in his full majestic state. Now, some humans and some people in Dark Souls do know about Ash Lake. One of them is Hebel the Rock, because we found his great magic barrier miracle in Ash Lake. And this could mean that he actually was down there seeking an alliance with the dragon, with the stone dragon, once he had a fallout with Lord Wynn and with Seath. So we are finally in Lost Isolith, and we are taking a look at the last type of dragon. These are called the Bounding Demons of Isolith, and they are undead dragons, but there's only the bottom half of them around, and I'll show you a close-up with the binoculars. So apparently this was a cemetery for dragons, and because it was so close to the Chaos Flame tainted the bodies of the dead dragons that were killed by Lord Wynn. He probably dumped their bodies here, or there was a big giant battle, a great battle, where maybe the dragons were finally extinguished. But whatever happened, the Chaos Flame was able to reanimate their bodies, but only their leg portions, because the top portions, their belly and their heads, is not around. All right, so that is going to do it for this video, guys. So we have talked about dragon lore, and I guess let's take a closer look at the Bounding Demons of Isolith. I still don't have a reason as to why it was that Lord Wynn attacked the dragons. We have found dragons that have attacked us, but for the most part, they've left us alone. And the stone dragon, which is the true descendant, untainted from the original dragons, was very peaceful and willing to offer us a covenant. And they were quite majestic, and they're still worshipped by humans even today. So the game really hasn't provided us a reason other than greed and the lust for power that Lord Wynn would want to fight the dragons. Apparently they were just in his way, and he wanted to be considered the most powerful being in Dark Souls. That is going to do it for this video. This is the Tech Phantom signing off.